Hi, welcome to Conversations with Jennifer, who's an estate planning attorney. Today, we're going to specifically talk about talking to your own parents about their estate plan and how to navigate that conversation. Um, that's a good place to start in terms of how do you start this conversation?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And honestly, the answer to it isn't the same for everyone. Obviously, you as the child, have a better sense of how receptive your parents are to talking about these sort of things with you, depending on the relationship and the generation. Some parents are very close to the vest about talking about financial matters. So I think, or assets, or what the value of their estate is. So I always find it works a bit better if you start it more as a conversation, which you and I have talked a lot about in the past, about just, making it a little bit more comfortable to talk about. It's obviously a sensitive topic. Sometimes it's an emotional topic. But just talking about, like, hey, I want to be in a position to help you, and let's kind of talk about some different things and try and present it in kind of an informal kind of setting.
Yeah, and I think the informal setting is also a way to kind of like reflect, like, oh, you've worked so hard over your years. What do you want to do with your money? How do you want to see your legacy? Um, and it's hard to have those type of conversations, but I think it does open up another like dynamic to getting into your parents' brain or what they want to actually see. Oftentimes I find that if you focus the conversation on them and their values and what's important to them, it gives you this insight that can help when they're not able to communicate those goals and wants and desires, right? And so um, one of the questions that I typically start with is asking your parents if they have a power of attorney or who's going to help them make decisions when they can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's certainly a great way, because again, that's critical to making sure while they're alive, but maybe not able to make their own decisions or take actions for themselves, making sure you have the right person in place. I sometimes find as well, when kind of the child generation is working on their own estate plan, kind of presenting it that way. Hey, I met with my estate planning attorney, and they told me it was really important to have these documents in place. Hey, mom and dad or parent, do you have these documents in place as well? I'm learning about it myself, and kind of presenting it in a way where it's not, again, it's more, hey, I'm working on this. I'd love to get your insight or input on what you've done with your own personal estate plan. But yeah, talking about, do you have a financial power of attorney? In years past, if people had a trust in place and a will in place, sometimes they didn't even do a financial power of attorney. However, these days, it's really a critical document to have in place, just to help the parent with their day-to-day financial management.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Even just inventory accounts they have. I know when my father passed away, like a year or two after, we were still finding accounts, and
Yeah.
it's kind of hard because we're in this digital world.
Mm-hmm.
Everything wants to be paperless. Everything wants
Yeah.
to be, um, you know, kind of electronic, and so you're not getting paper statements that you can
No.
follow,
Yeah.
and it kind of leads you on this goose chase as
Mhm.
the surviving family to find those documents and those accounts. So where accounts are located, what about healthcare directives, right? Like I think that's a big one because you need to figure out who's making those medical decisions.
Yes. So that's a huge one as well. And I think that one in particular, it's really important to have conversations with the people who are making medical decisions for you, particularly if it's a child, because it's an emotional and difficult situation to deal with losing a parent. You just mentioned losing your dad. I lost my dad 20 years ago. There's an emotional component of it, but if you can take a step back and say, look, this is what mom or dad wanted. I talked to them about it. I am fulfilling their wishes. It helps, I think, lessen the emotional sting of kind of what you're going through if you've had those conversations. And again, some people, not many people like talking about this,
Yeah,
but
I agree. Because like my dad would never talk about this stuff. I mean, he went
no,
through a lot of health problems, and he always avoided having that conversation because he wanted to be strong, and it's kind of his
yep,
personality. But
yeah,
as the person on the other side of the coin, I could tell you I would have had much, I don't want to say easier time, but I want to say like I would have some peace in my mind that I was making the right decisions for my parents or,
correct,
my dad in my
correct.
case,
Yeah,
because
I think
we
thinking
had
of
that conversation.
exactly thinking of that as a parent, I want to make this already incredibly challenging and difficult situation a little bit easier. And yeah, what those decisions are. Also, even just what you want done with respect to your remains and funeral and burial and cremation. At that point in time, family members are already dealing with a loss. Again, it's emotional, people are upset, but if you already know the steps you need to take, it helps streamline the process and gives family members something else to focus on, and they have direction and already know what your wishes are. So I think that's really important to do as well.
Yeah. So this has been good. So just to summarize, some key points in terms of talking to your parents, give them the example of your own estate planning, just trying to figure out like, hey, how did you go through these decisions? Kind of get some purview into what they want to do with their wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the people involved? Do you have a list of accounts?
Yep.
What do you want to see happen? I think it's just going back to having that communication
Yep.
is so important. And if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to either Jennifer or myself. Please leave comments below. We like to keep this a conversation, and please like and subscribe.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.